Or if you have all of these unfinished craft projects or whatever it is, maybe you've got all this laundry that you want to put away or that you're trying to decide, do I keep, this and this and this and this? Now, all of a sudden you've like 10x'd the number of decisions that you're asking your brain to make.
You're listening to the Decluttering Club podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they can cherish what truly matters.
Today on episode 60 of the Decluttering Club podcast, I want to talk about decision fatigue because this is a super real thing. And I think this is affecting us now more than ever. And I think when you understand what's going on with the decision fatigue and its link to clutter, then it just opens up motivation that you didn't realize that you had. Okay. So you may have heard me talk before about how I spent a year studying abroad in Germany. And in Germany, the grocery shopping is very, very different. It took me a little bit to get used to it. So the way it works in Germany frequently, again, it may or may not be exactly the same now, but back in the 90s, the grocery stores were pretty much on every corner, at least in the big cities, right? And they were a lot smaller than like the mega grocery stores that we have here in America. And so, it took me a little bit of getting used to, obviously there was also a language barrier, but I got used to shopping in these very small grocery stores. And then I came home, right? And I came back to America, and I very vividly remember the first time I came back and I went grocery shopping at the regular, large, giant grocery store. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. There's like an entire aisle full of yogurt and cheese, like 100 feet of dairy products in the grocery store. And, then there's like an entire cereal aisle. They don't have that in Germany. And I'm telling you, it took some getting used to for me to just acclimate, right? Because if this is what you always know, it's really not that big a deal. Like you probably can go grocery shopping and you can pick out the cereal or you can find the yogurt that you like. However, it is having a toll on you. It's just that you don't notice it and you don't realize it. But this is what we mean when we talk about decision fatigue. It's like all of the decisions that your brain has to make. And we make thousands and thousands of decisions every single day. Now, most of them we're making on autopilot. You can listen to the episode on default mode if you want to hear about that. But either way, you're still making decisions. Okay, so why is this important? The reason it's important and the reason that we want to be aware of decision fatigue is that it has a very real cost. Now, I looked up some of the symptoms and consequences of decision fatigue, and this is what I found. Okay, here's the list. Let me know if any of this rings a bell for you, if you are suffering from any of this. Number one, mental exhaustion. Oh, that sounds like fun. Reduced ability to make decisions. Impulsivity. Indecisiveness, increased irritability, impaired self-control, forgetfulness, decreased productivity, stress and anxiety, and then physical symptoms such as headaches. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? So this list is suggesting that when we are suffering from decision fatigue, when we are asking our brains to make too many decisions, more than we can handle, all of these things are going to start happening for us. And an example of this is like, have you ever had your kids or someone says to you, what's for dinner? And you're like, oh my God, I don't know. Why are you asking? It's like, well, that should be like, that question should be a fairly like innocuous question. It shouldn't really throw you into a tailspin, but it does, doesn't it? Well, and that's because we are making, 5,000 other decisions during the day. And then when dinner comes around, if we haven't already decided, we're like, oh my gosh, I cannot make another decision to save my life. And then we get frustrated, right? So that is how this shows up. All right, now why am I talking about decision fatigue and clutter specifically? Well, here is why. It's because there is a very direct link between decision fatigue, right, and having too many decisions to make and clutter. And what does that look like? Well, when you have a lot of things in your house, when you have lots and lots of things, especially when you're decluttering, you are asking your brain to make way more decisions than you otherwise would, right? If your house is decluttered and you don't have things in your house that you're not using, that you don't need, that are not serving you, then you're not thinking about those things. But if you have a room full of things that you're meaning to go through, right? Or if you have all of these unfinished craft projects or whatever it is, maybe you've got all this laundry that you want to put away or that you're trying to decide, do I keep this and this and this and this. Now, all of a sudden, you've like 10x'd the number of decisions that you're asking your brain to make. And it's no wonder, is it? Like that you're going to be overwhelmed, that it's going to lead to mental exhaustion and overwhelm. So there is a direct link between clutter and decision fatigue. And I think people don't really realize this. They just sort of think, why am I so tired? Or why is this so hard? Why am I falling apart over a decision like, should I keep, how many coffee mugs should I keep? Like, should that really be a decision that takes me weeks to make? Well, if you're suffering from decision fatigue, it very well could be. How does this show up? I think one of the ways that this tends to show up for people is that they become what we call clutter blind. So, let's say you have a room, let's say it's your kitchen, and there's a lot of things in your kitchen. You have piles of paper waiting to be handled. Maybe you have some clothes that need to be put away. Maybe you have appliances out. Maybe there's food that's waiting for you, right? And so what happens is, because all of these things are decisions waiting on you, your brain is like, cannot process, cannot handle, and it kind of tunes it all out. So you stop seeing these things. They kind of just fade into the background. They're just part of the landscape. And so you become blind to them and you no longer think about them actively, right? That's why people can just like literally step around or step over things on the floor, because they're like, it's not even really there, right? Their brains have tuned it out and they work around it, but it's really not there. Right, so that's clutter blindness. Now the thing is, clutter blindness makes it so you do not see each and every individual decision that's waiting to be made. However, there's still a price to pay, right? Because it is still there. You still have to step around the pile, right? Your brain has to like know, oh, okay, don't just keep walking straight. There's things to avoid. There are pitfalls here. There are things that are waiting on you. So it takes a toll, but it's kind of in the background. It's like this hum that it's just kind of like in the back of your head. You don't actively hear or see it, but it is there and it's taking a real toll. And this is why when people clean up, let's say you do go through and declutter your kitchen, you will remark, you'll notice, oh my gosh, I feel different. I feel lighter. I feel at peace. And you're not quite sure why. You're just like, I don't know what happened. I feel different. Well, it's because the weight of all those decisions is now gone because you handled the clutter, right? And again, I don't think people really realize what an effect the clutter is having on them. And then they kind of hem and haw and they're like, oh, but I might need it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you might need it, but guess what? You might need that brain power. You might appreciate having that mental capacity back and feeling less stressed, less scattered, and calmer. Like, do not discount the value of feeling better in your spaces. The other thing about clutter blindness and decision fatigue is that it's a vicious cycle, right? So if you start ignoring the clutter and you start ignoring the decisions, now the clutter is going to grow. It's going to increase, right? If you are not actively managing it, if you're not doing maintenance, then you're going to have more clutter in your home, and then it's going to lead to more decision fatigue and more clutter blindness, and it just spirals up and up and up. So it's not something that you can just like ignore and it will stay the same, right? There's no staying in place. Either you are maintaining and actively managing and decluttering, or the opposite is happening and it's piling up. So be careful about that. And those of you who think I haven't done anything, all I've done is maintenance, you're actually wrong about that, because maintenance is a really big deal. And maintenance absolutely counts, because maintenance stems the tides. Maintenance makes sure that you do not, that the clutter is not piling up. So maintenance is really, really important. All right, so just beware of that vicious circle vicious cycle that starts to happen when you are clutter blind. I'm reminded about one of the members of our membership. Her name was Juliet, and she shared that she joined our membership. And, she thought, this is a good idea. Decluttering it sounds like a good thing, something that I want to do for myself, for my husband and I in our apartment, right? So she joined the decluttering club, and, she's doing the work, showing up on the calls, et cetera, et cetera. And then she reported that a couple months in, she's like, you guys, something weird happened. Like something very surprising happened. And it was that she had been having panic attacks. I think it was like once or twice a week, right? It was just kind of something that she had kind of learned, okay, this is something that I'm going to deal with. And, she was managing them. But she realized when she cleaned up and when she let some things go out of her space and when she was more in control of her environment, her panic attacks just stopped. Like she didn't have them anymore. And she was like, whoa. Like she wasn't doing anything specifically different other than just the decluttering. And her stress lifted. And again, she had fewer decisions to make. Now, how cool is that? Now, we can't promise that that's going to happen, right? I would never promise you that, but it is a known fact that your stress levels are going to go down. You're going to have less to do. Okay, so if you're in the middle of this, right? If you're in the middle of a million decisions, right, just keep going. And, when in doubt, be ruthless. I really encourage you because the more you nitpick and the more that you spend on every individual little tiny decision, should I let this go? Should I let this go? Right? How about this thing? The more you spend on those little like baby steps, the longer it's going to take. And the more that you can let go, the more that you can get out of your house, the better you're going to feel. And then you're going to have the opposite of all of those decision fatigue side effects, right? You're going to have the opposite. You're going to have peace. You're going to be able to make decisions. You're going to be calmer. You're going to be less irritable. You're going to be able to think more clearly, and it's going to have this tremendous ripple effect in your life. I would love to hear if you are suffering from any of these effects of decision fatigue, or if you've seen an improvement since you've started decluttering. Let me know in the comments of this podcast, and I just love to have that discussion with you. That's all I have for you this week. I'll catch you next week. See you later, everyone. That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? It would really help us get the word out. To start your decluttering journey, go to thedeclutteringclub.com. That is declutteringclub.com. I'll see you next time.